Representative Khanna, Democrat of California, a vocal opponent of the Saudi-led offensive in Yemen's civil war, called on President Biden to withdraw further support from the campaign and cut off all arms sales to Riyadh, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Khanna hailed Biden's reversals of Trump administration policies on Yemen, calling them a huge commitment to end U.S. support for the Saudi war in Yemen. But he added that our work to support a brighter future for the people of Yemen is just beginning. Biden has already reversed the policy of backing offensive efforts by the Saudi-led coalition, which has been hammered for killing civilians, and revoked the decision to label Houthi rebels a terrorist group, a designation critics warned would hinder the delivery of humanitarian aid to areas under their control. We need further clarification on what specific military support will be ending, and just as importantly, what support Biden still plans to provide for the Saudis, Khanna said in a list of demands. We need a commitment from Biden to use all of his leverage to end the Saudi-led de facto blockade of Yemen. My team is asking for clarification on this point, and we look forward to receiving an answer. We need to confirm we've ended all arms sales to the Saudis, and that we won't fulfill any outstanding weapon contracts, he continued, adding that we need to press for additional humanitarian aid in all parts of Yemen. Khanna also called for full U.S. support and engagement with the peace process being led by the United Nations to end the war between the Saudi coalition and the Houthis, who have ties to Iran. So, I agree with everything that he said in his statements. I've spoken about how with a lot of these commanders and chiefs, they have the tendency to say they're going to do something without being very specific. So when Biden says, I'll end U.S.'s support for Saudi Arabia's war in Yemen, okay, are you still going to sell arms to them? Are you still going to finance them in another type of way? When they give these speeches and they sound affirmative, they are able to trick people by not being specific. And that was something I hated about Biden's inaugural address, that it was this mealy-mouthed non-disclosure of actual policy proposals that people just swooned over because it sounded, authoritative, or like something that a leader would say in the classical sense. But I'd like to see an American leader who wants to right the wrongs of a country that we have screwed over, which is Yemen, whether that's by giving humanitarian aid, by not labeling the rebels a terrorist group, when you know that that's just going to worsen relations between us and their respective fighters. And I think what Roe wants, if it were actually adopted by Biden, would be a very reasonable, just overall decent thing to do. And that's why I don't think it's going to work out. I think while we might officially end, it's kind of like with Iraq, we left there and then came back a few years later and are still stuck over there. We might end involvement as far as our own bombing, but I think they're still going to do the weapon sales and whatnot. I just don't see him being that different. But I hope I'm wrong, and I hope that the list of demands that Roe gave here actually are listened to. Because, like I said, I think Biden is just an awful politician. But if he can actually pull off getting the U.S. out of this conflict we've been in for almost 6 years at this point, it'll be the one thing I remember him fondly for. And he can start that by listening to Roe.